Good evening and welcome to the Job Search Solution, the radio program where we talk about looking for a job, changing jobs, changing careers, hiring. And as always, we begin with a prayer. Dear God, grant us thy peace and thy mercy, thy will be done. And as we do every Wednesday evening, Rich Lavinski is going to be with us here in just a minute, talking about consultants in the workplace, which reminds me, I want to mention that we have a brand new book out. Well, it's actually the second edition of 100,000 Successful Hires. It's a book that Rich and I wrote about hiring for hiring authorities. This is the second edition. The first edition was real popular. We are offering it for free for anybody that wants to get it. You can email me at tony@babich, BABICH.com, or you can email Rich at East 57th Street Partners. It's a book that covers the practical aspects of hiring, the art, science, and luck, and there's a lot of luck in it, in effective hiring. The first edition was so popular, we wrote a second one, taking into account the pandemic and what it's done for hiring and the practices that go on. And it's really very good. So if you want one free, you can call me at 214-515-7613, or you can email me at Tony, Tony, at BABICH.com, and we'll send you one. I wanted to discuss this evening something that comes up almost daily in our practice, and it has to do with little things. For better or for worse, hiring is a very imprecise, interviewing is a very imprecise science, if you even want to call it that. And what strikes me all the time, and has since 1973, is the fact that people make all kinds of decisions on very little information and very little things that especially go on in the interviewing process. What brought this to mind was that I had a candidate the other day when the hiring authority was asking him what he was looking for in a job. He said work-life balance. I don't know where he got the idea that that was a thing to say, but he did. And the hiring authority automatically assumed that what the candidate was saying was that he really wanted to work as little as he could and have a life, whatever that might be, as much as he could. You never asked him, what's that mean to you? Or what's that? The candidate came up with the idea of work-life balance because he heard it somewhere. It's what he told me. And it just reminded me that people make decisions about a candidate, even about a job and a company, based on very little kinds of information. And they take that little bit of information and they expand it to assume lots of things. We had a candidate last week that was so serious in the interviewing process that she didn't smile. And the hiring authority came back and said, well, you know, her skills are pretty good, but boy, she was so tense in that interview, she didn't smile. Well, what's that got to do with being able to do the job well? She's nervous. It's an interview. But he took that to mean that she's going to be tense and nervous all of the time. This is a typical example of a candidate is late to an interview. So it's assumed oftentimes by a hiring authority that a candidate's going to be late all the time to work and to lots of other things, which isn't necessarily so. You ask, why were you late? And find out, have the candidate back a couple of times, see if they're late a lot. Unfortunately, if you are a job candidate and even an interviewer, you need to take into account that we have a tendency to make broad decisions on very little information. And when we have a tendency to read into answers that candidates make or employers give information about their job or their company, that there's a tendency to expand that into a big decision, which may or may not be the case. But the truth is that because interviewing is a staged, contrived event, and because it is relatively short periods of time, even if you take 6 or 7 hours to interview a candidate, it's short relative to the candidate's experience and background and the life that the candidate might have in your organization. And the same is true as companies. I've had candidates get real upset about a company when an employer made some minor comment about the company and where it was going and what it was doing, and they read into things something terrible about the company when it's not the case. So the message is pay attention to little things. Little things do make a difference. There's no doubt about that. But don't read into them too darn much. And explore what the concern might be. If you're concerned about a candidate saying work-life balance, ask what that candidate means by work-life balance, and don't read into it. Watch out for the little things. Sometimes they can not be fair and not really be a realistic representative of what's really going on with a candidate or with a hiring authority. All right, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. This is Tony Beshara with the Job Search Solution.